I'm not worried about the Astros being 2 games back as opposed to would I have rather them have won? Absolutely. I would have rather them have won. But I like to look at it in series. I like to look at blocks of games, and I'm not disappointed at all that the Astros took 2 of 3. Am I a little surprised that the Astros jump out to a 3-0 lead and they lose a game in which Framber Valdez is pitching? I should be surprised, but Framber Valdez in his last few starts has not been very good. Framber in his last 5 starts, Blinkers, has an ERA of 7. Last 5 starts, ERA of 7. I was screaming on the tallest hill in Houston that they need to make sure that they are taking care of Framber Valdez because I care more about the workload and health of Framber Valdez than I care about the workload and health of Phil Maton. I'm concerned about Framber. I'm worried that you have your ace of the staff that, look, he's not pitching his best. Things are going poorly for Framber Valdez, and this isn't great whenever Christian Javier isn't pitching his best, when Hunter Brown isn't pitching his best. I think Framber will figure it out at some point, but I'd rather him be pitching good in his last 5 as opposed to having an ERA of 7 in his last 5.
Yeah, no doubt. And I know that social media is going absolutely nuts about the fact that, something's wrong with him. And you need to focus on that. I don't think there's anything wrong with him other than he's probably got a tired arm. That, he's got dead arm because just like the rest of the staff or the majority of the rest of the staff, they've been overused this year. And it goes to your point that you were making on social media and on the show a week or so ago when you're up 6 runs and you leave him back in the game and you're trying to get more out of him when the last thing you need to be doing right now is pushing the pedal down on Framber Valdez. There's still plenty of season left, but the man's ERA has gone up over a full run in the last 5 starts. He's given up 15 earned runs in his last 15 innings. That's not a good look. And it looks like the old Framber last night from a mental perspective, too. It looks like he just completely checked out at a certain point and just was like basically mailing it in and going, screw this, I'm out. And you need someone. This is what Maldy's truly out there for. Someone needs to rein him in and be able to try and at least maintain some focus. But I think he's due for more than just a fake sprained ankle, miss a start, turn in the rotation. They need to figure out some rest for this guy and get him right while you still have time.
I don't think it's realistic. I don't think it's realistic that you're resting Framber Valdez or you're coming up with a phantom injury.
Well, I mean, but I whether it's realistic or not, it might be the most important thing that they try and do. Because
so they're gonna send Framber on the 15-day IL, and Ronel Blanco is going to make 3 starts instead of Framber Valdez.
I don't know, 3 starts.
Well, it's got to be 15 days.
Well, I mean, it just depends on if they're going to make a roster move or not. But if there's a way that like the Rangers just skip Uvalde, like if you can skip him for a start or 2, depending on how he feels and what's going on behind the scenes. I just think that it's in the best interest of everybody right now because he's not obviously close to where he was. It's not about the All-Star game. It's not about other things. It's about the fact, in my opinion, that he's got a dead arm because he's been overused, and it just seems like he needs to skip a start or 2.
I think they need to go to a 6-man rotation, quite frankly. I think that's kind of like the middle of where we're thinking. It's probably the compromise of where we're thinking because look up and down the rotation. Framber Valdez right now, he's worked a lot in the last couple of years. Pitched deep into the postseason. The Astros held him out of the WBC. He's your workhorse, and people were wanting to pitch him in the 7th inning of a 6-run game because he's capable of handling it. Christian Javier, he's worked more innings than he's ever worked before. Hunter Brown is a rookie. Look, J.P. France is pitching great, but J.P. France is coming up with more innings than he's ever going to pitch in his life. The Astros have to go to a 6-man rotation, not only to save their starters, but it's also going to save your bullpen because you go to a 6-man rotation, you figure that those 6 starters will be going deeper into games because they're not starting as often, which means that you can use you don't have to use the bullpen as much. It's part of the recipe last year whenever you were in this part of the schedule. After the trade deadline, you go to a 6-man rotation. The bullpen is fresh. Then the bullpen carries you to the playoffs. I think it's time to go to a 6-man rotation. I think everybody would benefit from it. Framber, Javier, Brown, the bullpen. The issue here and the pushback with the 6-man rotation is quite simply who's the 6th guy. And it's probably why you need to make a trade because right now the 5th starter is either Brandon Bielak / Ronel Blanco. Right now it's Bielak and Blanco is pitching for the Spacers. And then you're getting Jose Urquidy back at some point, probably late next week, early 2 weeks from now, which, he's going to be part of the rotation mix. But even at that case, do you want Bielak making a turn every 6 games? Do you want Blanco making a turn every 6 games? The answer is no. Urquidy's part is your 5th pitcher of a 6-man rotation, and you're looking in the trade market for a 6th starter.
Yeah, look, and I think that now that the first domino has fallen with Giolito going to the Angels, I think that you're going to see general managers kind of try and be a little bit more pressing and urgent in terms of making sure they don't get left without someone that they're very interested in. I think the market's really going to heat up, and we're getting closer to the deadline. But for Dana Brown, it should already be to where he should be hyper-focused because he's seeing what we're seeing and more. He knows that, you've got to find another starting pitcher. And now with Framber doing this on top of, like you mentioned, Javier and also with Hunter Brown, you need to have some outside help come in for this team, I think, for it to have its best chance to win another World Series. And in order to do that, he's got to really start getting those irons in the fire cooking, and he's got to start getting some really serious dialogue going to try and make some moves happen, because it isn't about a bat anymore for me. It's about a starting pitcher and probably a relief pitcher, because they need the help with the arms more than anywhere else on this team.
Yeah. To me, it depends on the name before I'm power ranking needs. I think you could use all three. I think all three are very, very helpful. I think the price is going to be very high. I think that we're going to be in for a deadline that is, I think Dana's going to be aggressive and do stuff. I don't think there's going to be a splash. I think that he's going to make 2 or 3 trades to beef up the team. I don't think any of them are going to be the splashes that you expect to see. In terms of like Framber pitching poorly, and I am concerned. I mean, he's 5 starts. He's got an ERA of 7 when he was, before this stretch, the betting favorite to be the American League Cy Young. Things are not going great for Framber Valdez. We'll get to the mental side of it here a little bit later. His command's not great. His command's really bad. There's times when he's ahead of the count, fastball, middle of the plate, top third of the zone. Like, what are you doing there, Framber Valdez? And that was part of his, that was his weakness, and there were critiques of Framber Valdez when he was coming up, was that he lacks control. I think these last 5 starts, we've seen lack of control from Framber Valdez. Now, not necessarily always in the walks, although in each of these last 5 starts, he's walked at least 2 in every single game, so that's a high walk total. But he's missing spots. I mean, he's leaving fastballs up in the zone. He can't get the breaking ball over for a strike. I think Framber's biggest issue right now is that he's having trouble with his command.
I mean, it's kind of like Javier-esque, right? I don't see a drop in the fastball. He's popping his last start. He was popping close to 98 on his fastball.
The Rangers broadcast said that he dropped velo. I was listening. I had to watch the Rangers broadcast because my DVR screwed up. Yeah. But I don't notice it either.
I didn't see it. I don't see that. Just like I saw Javier's velo get back to where we're used to seeing it. So the velo is not the problem, but those secondary pitches for both guys are an issue with each guy. And as you said, it was my frustration the other night, and it's kind of across the board with the starting pitchers of the Astros. You get ahead in a count, specifically 0-2 counts for certain, and instead of just trying to get someone to chase by putting a ball that looks hittable, and like you said, it's a competitive pitch, but it really has no chance of being any damage done to it. Instead, they're just going middle up, and a pitch comes in screaming, "Hit me!"
See, I don't think they're meaning to do that, though. That's the lack of command I'm talking about.
But I'm just saying that's where they end up.
Yeah, it's lack of command,
and so it's a major issue for this team. And if it is command, then that's a tougher problem to solve, because now you got to start getting into mechanics. You start figuring out the whys, and in some guys it's going to be a lot more difficult than others to try and figure out the whys of why suddenly they've lost control of a pitch that they've been able to place wherever they needed to place it.
Yeah, I promise you they're not trying to put a fastball middle in an 0-2 count. And the fact that he can't get a breaking ball over for a strike is something that concerns me too. And then the last point with his stuff, y'all think his fastball is a little flatter than what we've normally seen? To me, he's not getting that sink that Framber Valdez normally gets.
The one that more so than the sink, and I think he gets enamored with it too. It's the movement from side to side where he starts it at a right-handed hitter and it fades in. And he gets too cute with it. He keeps trying to place that pitch, and he's not able to place it where he normally does, where it starts out in the right-handed batter's box and it ends up on the inside corner. And then he doesn't get it on the first time he tries it, but now it's almost like he's hell-bent, I'm going to throw it 2 more times, and he throws it in the exact same spot, and suddenly he's in a 3-0 count.
Command.
Well, that is, yeah.
But I feel like he's not getting the sink that we normally see on his pitches, too, which maybe is leading to that ball being a little higher in the zone.
That'd be more on his change,
accustomed to.
The change has got to dip more.
Yeah, he's having trouble throwing that for strikes, too.